Welcome to Deep in the Valley, a Missouri Valley basketball podcast. I'm Dr. Chris Bowser, joined by Brian Duttler, and this is your home for everything happening in the Valley, from Cedar Falls to Des Moines, Nashville to Normal, and Carbondale to Chicago. We're talking the schools, coaches, former players, and the stories that make the Valley one of the most historic and prestigious athletic leagues in all of college sports. So wherever you are across the Valley, you're in the right place. Let's get deep into the Valley. On this week's episode, we're joined by one of the greatest examples of what the Missouri Valley Basketball Conference is all about. Great people, player development, leadership, and giving back to the game. From his roots in Parkersburg, Iowa, to becoming a four-year player at Drake, now being a leader in K-12 education and coaching in his hometown community, his journey is a full-circle story that embodies the spirit of the Valley. Worn a lot of hats, player, coach, athletic director, principal, and continues to impact the next generation of Iowans, both on and off the court. Aaron Thomas, Coach Thomas, we're excited to have you with us, and welcome to Deep in the Valley.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Appreciate it. I'm glad you didn't say Great Valley player, because I probably wouldn't make the podcast. All those other things, maybe, but great to be on. Appreciate what you guys are doing for the Valley.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. One of the things, before we dive into the questions, AT, I remember you as a high school player. Brian and I probably remember you the most as AP teams kept coming to the UNI basketball summer team camps every year. Yep. And so we got a chance to watch you play up close and personal. Can you talk about maybe that experience of going to those team camps every year? Because I don't think that happens a lot anymore with the advent of AU teams and traveling all over the country. What was your experience with your AP teammates just going to the Eldon Miller summer basketball camps in Cedar Falls?
There was nothing better than UNI team camp. And it's crazy. If you think back, when I was in school, our coaches got 10 contact days for the entire summer. And so we'd run our own camp for 4 days. And then we'd go over to the Eldon Miller team camp. We'd go to either 2 or all 3 sessions of those. And that would be our 10 total days for the summer. And PC, no air conditioning, just sweating it out, down playing on the dome floor with outdoor basketball hoops that you guys had to go find from I don't know where. But the competition, it was unreal to be able to do that. And honestly, that was a big event. Back when I was in school, graduated in 97 from high school. But in Iowa, there was 2 AU teams. You either played for the IBCA, you played Martin Brothers. There was no, that was it. You couldn't just get your buddies together. And I think that there were some smaller, but you had to qualify to do anything. You had to qualify through the state. When I was a freshman and sophomore, I actually played for Gary Ryman with the Northeast Iowa Hustlers and played up a grade. I played probably, but we couldn't make it to the nationals because you had to win your state to be able to do anything more. We'd go play in Des Moines at a regional one with Gary, and then obviously as I get older, UNI team camp, and you saw everybody. For us, there was teams Minnesota, Illinois, and we were a small school in Iowa. For us to get to play against Peoria and get to play out of Hopkins, out of Minneapolis, big schools, because we were fortunate. We were a pretty good team. We had some Division I, Aaron Campman, Division I football player. Dusty DeFries was a Division I football player in my freshman year, Jared DeFries. And then for myself to be able to play at the Division I level basketball, it was huge to go play and see those people. And it was just the highlight of your summer, honestly, to go over there. And there were so many teams, so many games, and how you guys organized, kept that all straight, mind blowing. But as a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid, it was absolutely awesome.
That was one of our best experiences of being a manager at Northern Iowa, was the summer basketball experience. And I can tell you, we used to run 3 for sure. Yep. And it was 92 teams per team camp. Right. We had, I want to say, 10 courts in the Dome, all the courts in the PEC. Yep. Back when NU High was the thing, we had NU High's gym, and then we had 4 courts at Cedar Falls High School too. And it was all night Friday night, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. Yep. And it was an absolute blast every one of those team camp weekends. So thank you for kind of reliving that for us. And we've already been told by 2 people that we need to do a summer camp only episode. So we'll probably do that, and we'll probably have you come back for that one.
Yep. I'd be in.
All right. So, hey, small town foundations. Coach Thomas, let's talk about starting back in Parkersburg, growing up in that community, attending AP. How did that environment shape you as a player and a person?
Yeah, for me, I was so fortunate. Growing up here at AP was very fortunate. Lots and lots of athletic success. My dad was a high school football coach for many years. He won from 1981 until 2004. He won at least 7 games. You're only guaranteed 9. So to win 7 games, we always won in football. And then we merged with Aplington. So it was just Parkersburg through my 7th grade year. Then as an 8th grader, we merged with Aplington. Aplington had great basketball. They'd won 74 games in a row. Darren DeFries, former Valley great, now Indiana coach, played at UNI. He was a 4-year starter of Aplington. So I'm in 5 miles away in neighboring Parkersburg, our biggest rival, but I love basketball. And Aplington qualified for 3 straight state tournaments. My dad, every year, a highlight for me, we'd go down to the Iowa State tournament at Vents Auditorium. I'd watch and cheer on Aplington and Coach Dorn, and then we'd merge. In Parkersburg, we did not have good basketball. So for me, my passion, even though my dad was a football coach, lots of wins, state championships, NFL guys, all those things, I was much more built to play basketball and really loved it at a young age. And then Coach Dorn was my coach and started me as a freshman. We couldn't make the state tournament that year. We're able to make it as a junior and senior. Also got to run a state track meet. So everything we were part of, like, I really knew nothing different than being fortunate to be around great athletes, Division I athletes from a small school, and to have a lot of success. And the expectation of winning, the expectation of hard work, regardless what sport you played, being completely committed to it. Those were things that definitely were preparing me that I didn't even realize at the time as a 15, 16, 17-year-old. And just great teachers and coaches. And I think my experience is why I ended up moving back here. And my 3 kids went to the same high school my wife and I both did.
Yeah, you're a multi-sport athlete. When did you start to realize whether, that's age, whether that's skill, whether that's competition? Kind of when did you realize that basketball was going to be the way for you to possibly go to that next level? And what do you most remember about your playing days in high school?
Honestly, for me, it started at UNI Eld Miller basketball camp. That's where it started. And I was able to have success, but they bring in clinician. Nick Nurse was a clinician and showed the ball handling and then like individual workouts. And I can remember as a 4th or 5th grader coming home and all summer long, we would get like a workout sheet and I would fill that every day religiously in my driveway, would do that. And so my love for basketball was there. And as you get older, you kind of recognize, okay, able to have some success with it. Just Parkersburg at that time, we'd play and we beat Cedar Falls High School in like 5th and 6th grade and was able to do some things. And then for me, it was honestly probably my gonna be freshman summer going to UNI team camp, and Coach Dorn and assistant coach Speed Lemberg told me like, hey, be around the varsity, you're gonna play JV. Well, they were struggling. Darren DeFries had just graduated and never been another point guard. They had struggled to get the ball up. So about halfway through the very first game, all of a sudden I got to be a varsity player, not a JV. And I can remember them telling me, hey, if you can handle the ball, get us in our offense, you might have a chance to play. So I can vividly remember that whole summer, I'd run 1 mile around our track with 2 basketballs. And then I'd do 50-yard ball handling things that I learned at UNI basketball camp. And I was 135 pounds, maybe 6'1", but could get us organized. I could handle it, get us into things. And obviously for high school, Jared DeFries was playing then, so we just threw it into the post. That was the thing. But to win and then to start placing at U and eventually be able to play for Martin Brothers and Hank Huddleston we played Tracy McGrady and Deion Glover and Jermaine Jones and all these pros and still be able to have some success. My goal was to play Division I, and to have that chance, I think at a young age, it was within me. I saw I could have some success. I don't think I realized to the level I might be able to play, but I was definitely driven by it.
So college choice is one of my favorite topics. Yeah. It's been a part of my career for the better part of 2 decades. And so can you talk a little bit about then a kid from Parkersburg, Iowa, why you felt like Drake was the right fit coming out of AP?
Yeah. So for me early, I always went to the Dome, watched the UNI games, and UNI at first, I wasn't their number 1 guy. There was a kid out of Illinois that they were recruiting. Drake being hour 40 from my home, and Coach Kanaski had just been hired, I think the spring of my junior year, and they started attending all of our Martin Brothers stuff. They were watching us play at every U tournament and constant communication. The Knapp Center was new, was a great place, wanted to play right away. I think I was probably blinded to thinking you should just, wherever you go, you just win due to my high school experience. And so they were 1. I was number 2 at Creighton behind Ryan Sears. I'd say Coach Altman probably better judge of talent maybe. For that, I was 2 there. Appreciated Greg Lansing recruited me hard at Indiana State, but I was so close with my parents, I really didn't see myself going that far away where now I was intrigued by the whole Larry Bird thing. Don't get me wrong. My dad was a diehard Celtic fan, so I could remember watching TBS, Larry Bird, and playing the Atlanta Hawks and all those guys, but it was just too far away. And so Drake was there, and then went to a UNI team camp, played very well. I'll never forget. It was right before the start of my senior year, and Coach Miller had me up to his office, with my assistant coach, Speed Limburg, and they offered, but they came in a little later. Just Drake was there from the start. I like the fact that the Knapp Center versus the Dome, when Coach Miller did an unbelievable job to push to get the McLeod Center, but that was the thing. And Darren DeFries, great player there. That was a kind of a double-edged sword. Yes, I wanted to go play with him because I respected him so much. I had 1 year left there, but the chance to do my own thing at Drake, and it just felt right.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about that with Kurt Chinaski and that era just getting going. And you mentioned that you had a lot of success in high school. You did a lot of winning. You went back to some of the stats, and your teams were 36 and 75 at Drake. Yeah. And you were able to start, and I think about half of those games. And being a part of a program building aspect side at Drake at that point in time. Talk a little bit about that time as far as program building and maybe how that's tying into a little bit about what you're doing today and the success that you're taking from that.
Yeah, I will say first thing, Drake is not the job now that it was then. Looking back on what Coach Kanaski, even from what he got paid, to just our resources, we're nowhere near with Drake. Our president was a good man, but he was not about athletics. And what Myron Marty, coming from Gonzaga, what he's done, the investment he put into athletics, apples and oranges. And Dr. Tom deserves the credit on why Drake changed, because he gave them a list. Coach Kanaski, unfortunately, after 7 years, I don't know how that ended. Luckily, I was not there. I wish we could have won for him, for Marty Bell, who was a loyal assistant, the main guy who recruited me. I really wish we could have got over the hump for them, which we never did. But I know Coach Davis, Dr. Tom, gave like, hey, this is going to change or I'm not even coming. And Drake knew they needed to make a hire. And so that changed the landscape. And then they've been able to grow it. You get a president who's very much athletic minded. And now I just saw this year, like Drake was considered the best job in the Valley by the Valley coaches. I promise you, 1997, it might have been because we had the Knapp Center, but I promise you, we were in the top 2 worst jobs in the Valley at that time. And it was tough. It took getting used to. I had a ton of different teammates. We did not have continuity with that. And we just couldn't quite ever get over the hump. Honestly, my senior year, probably the most enjoyable. They brought in 4 junior college guys. Unfortunately, they didn't make it past first semester. We were down to 7 players, 6 scholarship guys. I went from my senior year, started halfway through my sophomore year, started a lot as a junior. Senior year, at beginning of my senior year, I was a straight bench guy. I think they were feeling the pressure to win right away. Then the ineligibility hits. All of a sudden, I pride myself on knowing what to do. I played point guard, played 38 minutes a game because I knew what to do. And all of a sudden, we had not won a Valley road game since I'd been there. First game, we lose those guys, and this will hurt Bows a little, but we go down to Missouri State, and we get a W in an ice storm because nobody in Missouri, I guess, knew how to drive in the ice, so nobody showed up, and they were good. And then we beat Illinois State, who was at that time second in the Valley, and we were able to win. So my career ended on a positive note. Not to the level I had ever hoped. I had visions. I wanted to get to the NCAA tournament, all those things, but still learn an awful lot just about resilience. Coach Kanaski was an unbelievable X's and O's coach and learned a lot of great X's and O's from him. I will say through my coaching, though, like my father, how he built his program, that shapes very much how I coach, because I don't think the sport matters with the life lessons he taught, the attention to detail. So take what I learned, kind of Coach Kanaski, take what I learned from my dad, take what I learned from Coach Dorn and from Speed, mix it all together, and that's who I am as a coach.
Talk a little bit about, let's piggyback here because you talked about your senior year a little bit. Let's talk about your overall development as a player. Can you talk about your growth? For example, I think your senior year, you were incredibly efficient, nearly a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, and you contributed also on the glass as a guard. Kind of maybe what clicked for you that senior year as a leader on the floor.
And honestly, I think it was more vows, honestly, about confidence and I wasn't looking over my shoulder about coming out. First couple of years, when you don't play either a lot of minutes, you don't get a shot, the basket looks like it's about this big, real small basket. But then all of a sudden, when you know you're not coming out, the freedom you get with that. Grew up playing point guard my entire high school career. My first 3 years at college, I played either the 2 or even an undersized 3. So I didn't play the point, was more comfortable at the point. That's what I had done for my entire life prior to going to Drake. And we had a great shooter, Luke McDonald, who came to us from Texas, was a really good scorer. And so for me, I always pride myself on passing. I was able to get him set up. We ran a lot of things to get him shots. And I think that's how we were able to do it. I was always a good defender. That's how I could get on the floor. And I think I knew what coach wanted and what to do. That's how I earned my playing times even younger, because I never scored a lot at Drake. lost my confidence in shooting, didn't look to be as offensive as looking back. I wish I would have. But that senior year to go out to win some games on the road, to win after losing those guys, set that at the time, I had the Drake record for most consecutive free throws, because about the only way I could score, I had to get fouled. And then I knew if I got fouled, I better not miss. It ended very well. And I think Coach Kanaski and Coach Bell and those guys appreciated the effort that us guys, who were the 6 guys who were left, that we gave that year. And it really was a very positive way to, and even though we didn't achieve what we'd obviously had hoped.
Yeah. So one of the things that we love talking to, like, there's former players, former coaches within the Valley, is who is the toughest player you had to prepare against and get ready for? So when you think about your time back at Drake, who was that player that was the toughest for you or for Drake to be able to prepare for, and why did it make it that way?
Great question with that. Honestly, I think maybe Marcus Wilson from Evansville was player of the year, because Jim Cruz was a Bobby Knight disciple. And so I had to, they didn't run sets. It was motion offense.
Yes.
But trying to guard him off a million, like, I knew I was going to get hit a million times on that night. Because the one thing, I always guarded the best player off the ball. That was my role. Matt Woodley was a Bulldog. He always took the point guard. I would have the other team's best scorer, whether it was the 2 or the 3. So usually I was undersized often. But when we played Evansville, and they were good there, they won the Valley. I can't remember if it was my sophomore year, maybe right around there. And I think he was even player of the year, but he was a handful to chase around. And then Roddy Buford at 6'6". I'm not 6'6". I'm not that athletic, but I drew him every time when we played Creighton, or Ben Walker, who was those 2 guys. He was so strong, Ben Walker, to get downhill. But honestly, 2 guys that were a nuisance was Jason Perez from Wichita State, and then Maurice Evans, who played there, transferred to Texas, played 9 years in the NBA.
Yep.
Those were my side. In Wichita, in that era with Coach Smithson, as you might remember, they lifted
Every
game day, non-game day. They lifted every day. And I swear their philosophy was foul every trip. They can't call them all. And so knowing I'm guarding either Perez, who was first team All Valley, or a future pro, those guys were handfuls. And for me, they'd run a lot of duck inside it, try to just post me up type things, being smaller. Back then, thank goodness there was no flop rule. If I got posted, I was taking a fall often, and officials would call it a fair amount for me. But just knowing their actions, Coach Kanaski and Coach Bell, those guys did an unbelievable job with scouting reports. So we knew what was coming. So I could try to beat him the spot, or if it was certain actions. But that's where I think, honestly, Marcus Wilson, because they didn't run sets. I didn't know where he was going to go. And I had to be on his heels. I had to get through every screen, not under it. I had to trail him. That was probably the hardest guard, because you couldn't emulate it. It's not like they're calling a thumbs up play or a fist play, or whatever. Like, you're just going to get run through a million screens, and he never stopped moving. And if he got an inch, it was going in.
We talked to Coach Henson on last week's episode, and he actually referenced how hard Evansville was to guard.
Yes.
Not only during Coach Cruz era, but then during Marty Simmons's era too, right? So Marty ran the same stuff. He was also, I don't want to call him a Bobby Knight disciple, but he had a lot of the same philosophy on running offense. And Barry was talking about how running people off a million screens. And so that tracks. I will confirm Marcus Wilson was the 1999 Larry Bird Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year. After leading Evansville to a regular season conference championship, averaged 20.7 points per game, and then scored 34 points that year against Kansas in the 1999 NCAA tournament opening round.
I think, did we get 3 teams at Bowser? 3 teams there. Was that the year Missouri State made it as well?
Let's see, Missouri State did make it in 99. They beat Wisconsin and Tennessee in the first.
We had 2 teams win the first round.
Yep.
And Missouri State was a handful too. And Coach Henson, like my favorite coach in the Valley, because he would joke with you playing. He was always kind and pleasant to everybody. But he had a heck of a team. Danny Nee, we didn't have a lot of 7-footers in the Valley when I played, but he was there. And then even their backup was almost 7 foot. But Kevin Alt was a guard who could shoot the heck out of it. And then, boy, if I can come up with their point guards, number 12.
I can. William Fauntleroy.
Fauntleroy, yes. Yep. And Fauntleroy was a handful. I was all for guarding Kevin Alt, even though I was going to come out, because Fauntleroy was so athletic and so quick. Like when Woodley subbed out and I had Fauntleroy, I'm like, yeah. And so the Valley is just so good. Such a good league.
And if anybody wants to look it up on YouTube, Mizzou would never play Missouri State.
No.
But the preseason NIT, which is no longer a thing, but the preseason NIT matched up Missouri State at Mizzou my first year at SMS. And so we went up there and watched the play, and William Fauntleroy had one of the nastiest dunks
Oh yeah.
on Albert White from Mizzou. So listen, if you want to go to YouTube and you look it up, William Fauntleroy dunk on Albert White, it's still out there, and it is one of the nastiest dunks ever. And William Fauntleroy's daughter actually plays at Baylor. And yeah, he has passed on that basketball athleticism to his daughter. So let's keep moving forward. After Drake, you spent some time as a graduate assistant at St. Cloud State.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about maybe your Division II experience. And then is there a time in that experience where maybe you say, I'm determined that I have a desire to transition to maybe coaching basketball at the high school level?
Yeah, for me, went up there for 1 year, a great league, the North Central Conference, the old days, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, St. Cloud State. It was really good basketball. And for me, it was great to learn a whole different, not near as much scouting when I went up there. They were way more and very successful. Kevin Schlegel was a longtime coach, really successful at St. Cloud State. But he was way more, hey, we're going to worry about what we do. We're going to have rules of how we guard things. Where at Drake, we knew your Scott, like we spent so much time on that. And I would say Coach Schlegel's demeanor spent a lot of time on shooting and skill work more than we did at Drake. Like I think at Drake, we were supposed to maybe do more of that on our own type thing. And honestly, with the travel really wasn't different. Because when I was at Drake, like we were rarely on a plane. Like it never failed. Like our Christmas break, we would go Wichita to Missouri State, finish in Carbondale. Like we didn't go for 10 days and it was on a bus. Like we weren't flying to all these places and then back to campus. And so D2, we were on a bus. That was a Friday, Saturday night. You had a travel partner. So you'd practice all week. Friday, Saturday, you'd play whether you're home or two away. And the good thing with that, Division II, there's at that time was Coach Schlegel, one assistant coach, Matt Reimer, 2 GAs. So you think about how much more coaching I got to do. Like I had the guards with Coach Reimer, but we'd break it down. I got to do some scouts to the non-conference, recruited, went out and saw kids that usually not always the top kids. And that was a little hard for me to kind of string, you don't want to say string kids along, but hey, I knew going in, they weren't our 1 or maybe even our 2. And that was a little bit hard for me. And then I got married right after Drake. So my wife and I, both being from Parkersburg, want to get back and maybe start a family. Union High School in LaPorte City, which was 50 miles from where we grew up, had head boys basketball and kind of an at-risk position. And honestly, it probably just came down to, I just wanted to be in charge. Yeah. And so I wanted to run my own program, liked what the high school setting was. I knew in one more year as a GA, my future is very unknown. We knew we didn't want to get far away. So it just felt like the right fit to go and get into high school. And I was very fortunate at 23 years old to be named head high school basketball coach and loved it ever since. And the impact you make, I don't care what level you coach, junior high, little kids, high school, college, it's truly about relationship and just developing people. For me, like I said, my dad was a huge impact and influence on me on doing that, and feel like I've been able to do that now for 24 years.
Yeah, now you get into the ultimate bus leg, right? There's nothing other than taking that big old yellow school bus to every little
hour.
Right?
It's not 8 hours. It's an hour.
At the same time as the community night, not only you grew up in, but where you had your first job, you start learning about having to wear multiple hats. You end up being a coach, you end up being a teacher, you end up being the athletic director, you end up being the assistant principal. You're a lot of things to a lot of people. So kind of what did that help you develop some leadership style or building a program, and how that, where you kind of got your real first foot in the industry? What was that experience like for you?
Honestly, it's all I knew, because growing up, my dad was the athletic director at Aplington-Parkersburg, taught history half the day, had lunchroom duty, and then he'd be the AD, then he coached head football, head track, but set up every basketball game. For me as a young kid growing up, my quality time with my dad was setting up the gym and then getting to shoot hoops before all the high school teams showed up, or being up there and jumping in the ball handling drills with the high school guys. And so honestly, growing up, I didn't know anything different than being at the school all the time. That was all I knew. And I loved my experience riding the football bus, sitting on the kids' pads, and like just things. I wanted my kids to have that experience. But as far as wearing all those hats, that's what I grew up watching. I think my dad did an unbelievable job as it. And really, I just tried to do it my way, but mimic his work ethic, his organization, holding people to a standard, being fair, being consistent, I think is a huge key. But again, most of that I got to attribute to my father, and just learn that tagging along, being with him and watching him build success at everything he did as an athletic director, as a teacher, as a coach with his football program.
We'll circle back around to your current experience now, but I want to talk a little bit more about Drake for our Drake fans, if we have any.
Oh, they're there now.
Developing.
Come on.
And so when you look at Drake now, it's really become a launching pad for high-level coaches, right? Nico Medved, Darren DeVries, Ben McCollum, all having success there before moving on to power conference opportunities. From your perspective as an alum, what is it about Drake that allows them to identify and hire high-level coaches, and how they've been able to sustain that high mid-major standard throughout that process and those transitions?
Brian Harden. He deserves all the credit. We tried coaches. Drake in Iowa, it's different. And I think you had to get people that, especially to attract crowd, like I can say, we're probably not going to outdraw Iowa State in Des Moines. You have Iowa State fan, but instead of trying to fight that, invite them along too. Hey, if they're not playing, or hey, our ticket's affordable. And once you start winning the Knapp Center, people respond. And it's been shown, like, the Knapp Center has become an unbelievable place to go. And the experience and the environment's great. I think it started, Medved was a good hire, and then 1 year and out. But then Brian, I had called for the 3 searches prior. I called and begged, and Drake didn't even know me, but their 80s would always, Sandy Hatfield Club would always take my call, talk to me. I could talk to Dr. Adams, who was like a provost and just well-respected, and different boosters I could call, and would always answer my call, which said a lot because they wouldn't have had hands. I was no great player at Drake. I was a high school teacher. It's not like I'm donating all kinds of money to Drake, but those people would call and listen. And finally, I think Brian saw how much Darren wanted the job, that it wasn't just a job, because Darren had chances to go other places and he didn't take them, but he saw what Drake could be. And I think if you look at his 6 years, what he's able to accomplish there, and then obviously following that, you don't need to look at McCollum's track record. He did it in Northwest, Missouri State, and then to come to Drake, it was 1 year, but he knew what he was doing. He brought some dudes with him. And then the success to get to Iowa to Elite Eight, that had to happen since I was 9 years old. And I was a diehard Hawkeye fan at that time. Roy Marble, BJ Armstrong, Kevin, I was all in on that. And that's when my dad, KGAN, every Wednesday, Saturday, Channel 2, Mac McCausland, Larry Morgan, automatic. Drake, to get somebody who understood Iowa, who wanted to be there, that kind of understood what you got to do at Drake, because Drake academically, not just everybody gets to walk into Drake, but Darren being at Creighton, very similar type school, transition. Creighton hasn't always been where it was. Dana Altman built that thing, and Darren was part of building that after he graduated there, followed kind of that blueprint to make Creighton what it was. He did it at Drake. And then we were able just to kind of keep it going.
Yeah, that kind of puts us in kind of where we're at today. On my side, it looks like you finally got the wheel to stop a little bit this year. You get maybe a little bit of roster retention in some spots, but you also get a coach retention as well, Coach Henderson. And just your initial thoughts on the first season with Coach Henderson, and what excites you the most about where Drake is headed.
You won't find a better guy than Eric Henderson, period. Again, he was a fellow Northeast Iowa hustler who played for Gary Rima, a Mac Valley guy. Gets Iowa. He showed his success at South Dakota State. And I think what's been good talking to Coach Henderson, he said the Valley is even more than what he thought. Like he said, he maybe underestimated the athleticism, the size, some of the things maybe they needed in year one, but knowing him, he's going to get that fixed. But as far as high character, care about people, and he's going to win. He's won at South Dakota State. He worked with TJ Otzelberger. He's a McDermott guy. Like he knows what he's doing. I have zero worry. Now, Drake people got spoiled because when I was playing, if they would have had this year's record, we might have had a parade. You win a game in St. Louis, like it's going to be. So I chuckle. It wasn't all that long ago. Honestly, 2008 was an anomaly for Drake. We had one good year. Dr. Tom got us to, I looked that up before coming on here. There was first 2 years for Dr. Tom, we're losing records. We got to 500 a little bit before retired. Keno took it for the 1 year, had the great run with Emenecker, Josh Young, those guys, but then it dipped again. Yep. But where we're at now in the community and the support, for everybody, I mean, it's so frustrating every year. You look at the Valley All Conference teams, those guys either graduated or they transferred. And that's a tough thing about the mid-major right now. But the resilience of all the Valley coaches is to be commended because it's still great basketball. They find the talent, they develop it. Maybe things will get changed where maybe we can see those guys longer than a year when they become the great players in our league.
And so one follow-up question on this is, what are you looking forward to the most about the 2026-2027 edition of Drake basketball as a fan, because I know you're more than an alum. You follow the Bulldogs. You're a big fan. So what are you looking forward to maybe in the next edition of the Drake Bulldogs?
I'm anxious to see the guys. Obviously, it's early. A lot of the mid majors aren't signing guys yet. You got to kind of let the big guys have their turn. Everybody thinks they're going to make $5 million right now. But with the guys he retained, I know the toughness that he's got coming back. A healthy Owen Larson. I was able to coach Owen in AU. I coached the Martin Brothers team, and he is a difference maker. Coming off that ACL surgery, he looked like himself in the Valley tournament. If you watch the Valley tournament, he was a handful again. But just seeing the pieces they bring in year two, Hendo knowing the Valley, knowing what he needs to get for players. Because if you watch any of the South Dakota State teams, they're tough, hard-nosed teams. They're going to compete. They're going to guard you. Drake didn't guard well this year, and Coach Hendo would be the first to tell you that. I look for that to be different. He will play up tempo. So I'm just excited to see year two and the growth, his energy, his positivity. It's going to be a good thing.
I think Brian and I were at Arch Madness and had a lot of fun watching Drake. And after losing 9 consecutive games to end the regular season, they win 2 games, right? They win on Thursday, and then they take down the number 1 seed on Friday at noon. And all of a sudden, people are like, the last couple of years have been the Drake Invitational. So all of a sudden, there's a lot of people in the arena going, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah. And it was great selfishly as an Iowa guy for you and I and Drake when they can go down there and play. There's nothing better. And it's such a good tournament. Arch Madness is just an awesome conference tournament.
So let's talk a little bit about your current day. So it's been a full circle and a little bit of perspective on that. So now you're back at Aplington-Parkersburg as principal and head coach. What does it mean to you to lead the same community, kind of where your whole journey started?
Yeah, it's great for me. My youngest is a senior in high school this year. So have all 3 of my kids to go through, and I was fortunate enough, all 3 of them were able to play in the state basketball tournament. Probably the best coaching experience for me, just to be able to celebrate. Honestly, it's the qualifying for state, the sub-state game. Your whole community's there taking the pictures and do that. And then for me as the principal to see just the success we've been able to have even academically. We have the Iowa report card, and we've been a high-performing school the last 3 years. And just to work with our teaching staff and create the best possible environment for our kids. And what I love about the small school, we have 60 to 70 kids in a class, but for our kids, my own kids, they'd be a lead in the musical, and then they're playing on Friday night in the football game, or being a starter in the basketball team and doing speech and I just love that, the opportunities and the experiences our kids get to have here at AP, and just so proud of everything we've been able to accomplish. And obviously vested interest. It meant a lot to me growing up here, still means an awful lot with my profession, to be able to do it in the school system and work with our young people. I'm just very blessed and fortunate to be able to do what it is I do, and that the school district, not a lot of principals get to coach basketball. So very thankful that they allow me to do that as well, because that is a passion. I get to connect with kids on a different level and do different things with them. But like I said, I'm probably the luckiest man in the world.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into the coaching line within the family, right? You got a lot from your dad, and now it's yourselves. And there's I believe your boy is down in Grundy Center, and they have a little bit of opportunity to coach against him. What's that? Since not too many parents get that opportunity.
Yeah, allegedly we were the first father-son duo to play in the state basketball tournament. And so for him, it's crazy to me, because he's 22. I was 23 when I started, but to think I was that young in charge of a program. And then I watch him, but Ellie and I, we couldn't be prouder of Owen and what he's established. And I know he's taken a lot of the things that he's learned here from AP, not just me, but from our community, and established an already great community, because Grundy Center is an athletic-minded community. Yes. But to be able to play against him was a neat experience. I wish he wouldn't have beat me, but outside that, it's just, for me, I know how amped up he was to win. I guarantee you winning more and beating me meant a lot more to him. I was maybe older, a little more sentimental, and just how cool it was to be on the same sideline as him. But to see him establishing his own legacy, for me, I had to go to Union. The best thing I did was went to Union for 7 years, because honestly, there's only ever going to be one Coach Thomas at Aplington-Parkersburg. That's always going to be my father, and I'm good with that. I'm doing my own thing and being my own Coach Thomas to the next generation. And I want Owen to establish himself and who he is and his own Coach Thomas now 15 miles down the road from here.
I am going to make sure that we, for the record, say that the score was 74-69 on January 20th.
We fouled late.
What does that do to family dinner on Sunday night?
I think I always buy family dinner on Sunday night, so I don't think it would matter who would have won.
I think that's probably true.
You know how that is.
Closing in a couple of things in closing. So when you look at your journey, Parkersburg, Drake, St. Cloud, Union, and now back home, what are you most proud of, and what impact do you hope to continue to have on the next generation of kids coming out of AP?
Honestly, what I'm most proud of is probably my relationships after the kids are done, and to see the success of the guys who have played for me, to get invited to those weddings, to see them become successful people. Nothing better to see kids who played here, they want to go get in a bigger town, bigger city for a while, and then start having their own kids and to move back here. Just an awesome thing. Probably the biggest thing coaching wise proud of is year in and year out, we have the most kids out for basketball in our conference. We have 40. So our high school, 240 kids. We average about 40 kids out for basketball every single year. Now we've been able to win. In Iowa, you're guaranteed 21 regular season games. We've won 20 games, an average of 20 games for 12 straight years. So just to be able to establish that year in and year out and to build a culture, something I got to grow up watching on the football field, I've been able to do the same thing on the basketball end. But just so proud to be in our community and just see that continue to grow, and the pride that people have in our schools, our community, and our sports.
AT, I can't thank you enough for joining us. This was really fun. It was really amazing. Before we let you go, any final thoughts?
No, just again, I'm a diehard Valley fan, ESPN Plus, be able to watch that when we're not on. And the stories you guys are bringing to the diehard Valley people, I can't thank you enough. And just honored to be a part of this. Don't know if I qualify. Like, I know Barry Henson and those guys and the people you're going to have, but just truly appreciate you telling the story of, what I think is the greatest conference there is.
You bet. Thank you. So before we let you go, we do have two questions for you, Ash, that are a little bit softball, but we need to know. So if Duttler and I go to a Drake game next year,
yep,
where would you say that we should go for pregame meal, and what would be your go-to order at that establishment?
If you're going to Drake, you may have, there used to be a Jethro's right by, and that's not there. That would have been my one, but I might send you, especially if it's about at noon, I'm going to send you to the Drake Diner, because their breakfast is unreal. And even if it's breakfast, you have to get a milkshake, because their milkshakes are second to none. That was the thing. If you're going Drake, otherwise, if you're a little outside, OP Pizza, which is a Cedar Falls thing, Ankeny OP Pizza is off the charts.
100% always.
Sending you there if you're going to Drake.
And so I'm going to ask you the same question about us coming to an AP game next year. Where are we going for pregame meal in Parkersburg?
If it's Monday night, you're going to have to go to Quick Start, because it's the only thing open, baby. If not, I'm going to give you two choices. Okay. You got Matt's Bar and Grill. You go there, biggest tenderloins you've seen, or a Barbarian Bob. So imagine a huge cheeseburger covered with crisscross fries and cheese on it all. Or if you're a wing person, or you like some honey pizza, I'm sending you out to Legend Trail Golf Course. Our country club also has food, everything there. Those two, you're going to leave full. You're going to be glad you stopped. But like I said, if it's a Monday night, you're going to Quick Start. We're not open on Mondays.
Hey, we love Quick Start, by the way.
Hey,
I've been traveling back to Iowa a lot to visit family over the course of the last few months. And I said, I'm glad I don't live in Iowa anymore, because I give all my money to Quick Start on the weekends.
It happens. It happens.
So everybody, thanks. We need to thank Aaron Thomas for joining us. That's another episode of Deep in the Valley. We appreciate you for spending a part of your week with us and talking Missouri Valley basketball. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and follow along as we cover everything happening across the Valley all year long. From Cedar Falls to Des Moines, Nashville to Normal, Carbondale to Chicago. We'll be here every week to tell the stories that make the Valley special. For Brian Duttler, I'm Chris Bowser. We'll see you next time, Deep in the Valley.